Hello. Now you may have noticed that I've been a little bit quiet with my videos recently, and the reason for that is quite straightforward. We've moved house. We've downsized from Cherry Tree Farm, which has been our wonderful home for 15 years, and we've moved to this beautiful little thatched cottage called Rose Cottage. We've not moved far, we're just 20 minutes from where we used to live, so very much a similar climate for gardening. And the great news is that whilst the house is quite a bit smaller and a lot more manageable, the garden is actually quite large. And it's a blank canvas, and I've got some wonderful and exciting ideas for projects and schemes around the garden, which I'm going to tell you about in today's video. And of course, none of this is really set in stone yet because we've only been here for 2 weeks. So these thoughts and ideas and projects may evolve and develop into things that are completely different. And if you want to join me on that journey, please do subscribe to my channel. So let me show you around. So I will keep this brief because it's suddenly gone extremely cold. And I'll just give you a guided tour and a running commentary, and this will also provide a line in the sand as to where we are. At the front of the cottage here, there's a little cottage garden. We must bear in mind that this is December, so everything in the garden is looking a little bit tired and dishevelled. And ideally, really, you should wait probably a year and live with a garden before you make any dramatic changes. But I've already decided that what I'm going to do here is make a formal parterre. Not dissimilar to the one that I had at Cherry Tree Farm. Lots of box hedges sectioned off, possibly with some urns and some sculptures inside. These two lovely roses here will not be wasted. I will be digging them up and transplanting them. There's one there, and there's also one over here growing up the pillar to the canopy. All these bricks around the place and hardware and stone slabs will be lifted and reused in other projects. Nothing will be wasted. And over here there's a lovely stone trough, and I intend using that to make an alpine garden with some little alpines that I brought with me from my previous house. So yeah, that's the front of the cottage, and that's going to be a formal box parterre. Moving to the side, and this is the side door, but we use this as the main entrance. There's a little side border here, and it's got 3 roses growing in it up the side of the house. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to lift those and transplant them because I would really like to build a rose arbour down that path there. So there will be a rose arbour parallel to the lane, and all the roses that I dig up I'll transplant and place them along that rose arbour. The one fly in the ointment is that huge conifer. It's about 30 feet tall. It's an example of the right plant in the wrong place. So that, I'm afraid, has got to go. That will be one of the first jobs I do. It's something I can do in the winter time when the birds are not nesting, and it'll clear this whole space, because at the moment that conifer really does dominate the whole of the front of the garden. Getting back to this little border here, I'd love to clear this out and make this into a little formal box ball border. And I'll probably plant my 2 topiary box in here as well, because they've been in pots for a few years and they'd also love to get their feet in the ground. So that'll be lovely and neat and tidy, and I'll be able to place pots of tulips in and amongst the box balls. Moving around to the back of the cottage, there's a wonderful little private, secluded, sheltered space. And this is going to be our outdoor dining area. It's also going to be our little jungle garden, but as you can see probably, it is completely dominated by these 2 huge conifers. They're massive. Again, right plant, wrong place. They completely dominate this space. That wall there is about 10 foot tall. So that gives you an idea of just how high they are. They are coming out. This area is going to be cleared, and I'm going to put a uniform ground treatment throughout here, coming all the way through. I might do a deck, I might do a boardwalk on all our jungle plants like our bananas and palms and gingers, and then settees can be placed in here where it's sheltered. This building here is a piggery, and it's called a piggery because that's where the family of old would have kept the household pig. It's a really useful space. It's been tidied up, it's got a lovely brand new door on it, and inside it's quite spacious. It's even got electric and its own light. So that's going to be a really useful potting shed or tool shed. And to the rear of the piggery, there's a little brick built compound, and this is where the pig would have lived day to day. And look at that little interesting feature there. That is a slops slab. That's where all the household waste food would have been dropped, only to be eaten greedily by the pig living on the other side. And this is a neat little feature. It's a feature of interest, and I'll be keeping this. I've not decided what to do with it yet. Possibly a barbecue area. But look, over there in that corner, there's an archway. That's been bricked up, but that's where the pig used to come in and out of the piggery. And over here, on the other side of this wall, there's an area that's been sectioned off. Can you see? Boulders around the outside and lots of pebbles in the middle. What I'd like to do here is dig a little water feature, a goldfish pond. And I have a big bronze goldfish, which is a water fountain, and I can put that in there using the electric inside the piggery. So we'll have the sound of running water and a goldfish pond here. Most of the garden is laid to lawn, as you can see. What I quite like to do is divide that up into garden rooms, and there's an asbestos shed in the far corner and a raised bed and another gate, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Let's continue. It's a really useful double garage, and that's been useful because I've been able to put all my tools in there and some of the plants that have to be kept inside during the winter. But what's really interesting is at the back of the garage here, there's a fenced off compound, and this is one of the things that attracted me to this house, because it's got everything a gardener could wish for. This is a really useful space for a garden. Ignore this wire, this is a temporary measure. It's lighting up the Christmas tree on the other side of the fence. But look at this, I've already been able to store all my plants here. Here are the agapanthus, here are the olives, there are the tree ferns all wrapped up with a winter protection. Probably saw me do that in a vlog. And here are the palm trees, all nicely sheltered in this wonderfully useful space. Hedge to one side, wall and fence to the other. So this is completely sheltered and really useful. Now in here we're planning on putting either a greenhouse or a polytunnel. An excellent shed there that's already housing some of my succulent plants that can't stay out, and tender plants which can't stay out for the winter. And I discovered over here, look, some Belfast sinks tucked away in the hedge. I'll probably use them also for alpines, so I'll have a little arrangement of 3 troughs and sinks with alpines in it. And in the compound there's a pre-existing concrete slab. It's about the size of a garage at the moment. The shed's on it. When that shed gives up the ghost, we may build a greenhouse on there or another shed. So moving back out into the main garden again. Around the side of this compound is the grass heap, and that's where the previous owner used to pile all the grass cuttings. And I'd like another wildlife pond, and it seems to me that that would be the perfect area for it, because there's a lovely mature hedge going along, and beyond that hedge on the other side of there is open countryside. There's a mound of garden spoil there with weed fabric and gravel, and as you can see there's a lovely conifer that we're using as our Christmas tree. Down here to the right there's a border that's filled with buddleias. I'll certainly be keeping those because they're great for wildlife, particularly butterflies and bees. And in actual fact, I've got a friend in London who has a couple of beehives on a rooftop. He's offered me a beehive, so you never know, I might get into beekeeping. Watch this space, and I might tuck a little beehive somewhere in here. Moving around over here, another of those pampas grass, which actually do look a bit dated, but it can stay for now. I've not decided on that yet. But here along the fence there are 3 lovely semi-mature fruit trees, and I'll be keeping those. And I'd like a productive area of the garden, so I'm thinking possibly some raised beds here. I've also always liked the idea of bleached lime, so I might have some kind of lime walk going across the garden. Over there in the far corner is the asbestos garage, and that's a really useful storage space. And asbestos is okay whilst it's stable, but I don't think I'll be keeping that long term. I'll probably end up replacing it with something of a similar size to store things in. And at the side there of the garage is a really useful little space, and what I'm thinking of doing here is having a compost heap, or even a series of 3 compost heaps which I can rotate over the years. Here's a second gate which leads onto the lane. I've had to make this dog proof with this wire to stop the dog escaping. That leads down the lane there and up the lane in that direction, and the lane is actually a dead end. Cars don't generally come up here because they can't go any further, but just round that corner and along in about 400 metres there's a canal which I will show you one day. Look at this rather curious and unusual raised bed with a fruit tree in it. I'm not sure what the history of that is. What's good about it is it's already got electric for lights, as you can see here. There's a couple of lights, one on this corner and one on the far corner over there. So eventually I will probably remove that. I'm not sure why it's there and I don't particularly care for it, but I will be able to use the soil in the raised beds that I build over there, and the bricks which are behind this wooden facade I will clean up and reuse in some other project. So that's more or less it. We go back up to the cottage where we started. Along here, a rose arbour, using all the roses that I've transplanted from around the place. And that will be a lovely view from the kitchen window there all the way down the garden. And there's that big beast of a conifer which has got to be removed. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed that whistle-stop guided tour of the garden at Rose Cottage, and I hope you're as excited about some of the projects as I am. From the formal boxed parterre at the front to the rose arbour down this garden path, the idea of keeping bees in the far corner, and a bleached lime walk. Also, not forgetting the jungle area and the eating area around the back of the cottage, the fish pond and the new wildlife pond. Please do join me on the journey and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon.